Alex stood in his grandmother's dusty attic, sifting through old boxes. The air smelled of mildew and forgotten memories. A single dim window cast a weak glow on the clutter. Among the old books and photos, he found a map of Chernobyl. He'd always been fascinated by the place, a ghost town frozen in time after a terrible disaster. I have to see it for myself, Alex thought. For months, he planned. He studied maps, learned about the radiation levels, and prepared the right gear. A Geiger counter, flashlight, knife, and camera. Everything he'd need for the journey. The road to Chernobyl was long and silent. The trees grew thicker, the sky darker, and the air colder. As he climbed over the rusted gates of the exclusion zone, a chill ran down his spine. He was completely alone in this forgotten place. The streets were overgrown with weeds. Buildings crumbled, their skeletons barely holding together. Glass crunched under Alex's boots as he walked. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. He headed toward the research facility, the place where it all began. The building was a massive, decaying structure. Its doors hung open like the mouth of a dead beast. Inside, the walls were damp, and the air smelled of metal and rot. Alex's flashlight revealed peeling paint and broken furniture. The Geiger counter beeped softly at first, then louder as he went deeper. He felt like he was being watched, though he knew it wasn't possible. Or so he told himself. Then he heard it. A faint shuffle, like something dragging across the floor. Probably just the wind, he whispered, but his hands were shaking. Rounding a corner, Alex froze. A figure stood there, a person, or something that used to be. Its grey skin hung loose on its bones. Its lifeless eyes locked onto him, and then it moved. The creature lunged. Alex stumbled backward, dropping his flashlight. He fumbled for his knife as the thing growled and snapped its jaws at him. His knife slashed at its neck, but it didn't stop. It just kept coming. Panic took over. He ran. The hallways twisted into a maze as Alex sprinted, the beeping of the Geiger counter growing louder. More of the creatures appeared, their moans echoing in the dark. He found a room filled with flickering monitors and lab equipment. In the center was a heavy metal door with a biohazard symbol. His instincts screamed at him to leave, but he pushed the door open. Inside, Alex found the source of the nightmare. A giant machine pulsed with a sickly green glow, surrounded by strange pods. Inside each pod was a creature, half human, half something else. Thick tubes connected them to the machine, which hummed with unnatural energy. Alex realized the truth. The disaster at Chernobyl wasn't just a nuclear accident. This machine was creating the creatures. He had to destroy it. On a nearby shelf, he spotted a flare gun. Grabbing it, he aimed at the heart of the machine. His hands trembled, but he pulled the trigger. The flare hit its mark. The machine exploded with a deafening roar. The pods burst open, and the creatures inside screamed and thrashed. Alex turned to run as the building began to collapse. The walls cracked, the floors crumbled, and the air filled with smoke. Alex pushed forward, his lungs burning from the radioactive air. Behind him, the creatures howled. At last, he burst through the exit, collapsing onto the cold ground outside. The research facility crumbled into rubble behind him, but Alex knew the nightmare wasn't truly over. Back at home, Alex sat at his desk, writing in his journal. His hands shook as he tried to put his thoughts into words. The Geiger counter on the table still beeped faintly. He had survived, but at what cost? The horrors of Chernobyl haunted his dreams. Sometimes, late at night, he thought he could still hear them. Their growls, their footsteps, their nails scraping against the metal. Chernobyl had left its mark on him, and he knew he could never forget. Some places are meant to stay forgotten.